Welcome to our nourishment series. Last time we talked about why to nourish, and today we're going to cover when it is to nourish. And this is so important and something that is often overlooked, and we're going to look at what it looks like. And so let's take a deep dive.
We were always taught the most important meal of the day is,
Well, breakfast,
of course,
right? Because that's what we grew up with.
right. But no, it's not. This is actually a big misconception
Yeah.
that I actually sadly taught my patients for many years. But where did this concept originate?
I don't know if you tell me.
I mean, you don't know.
Enlighten us, Tanya. Dr. Tanya.
So breakfast, this whole misconception that it's the most important meal of the day, it actually came from industry. So sugar industry and grain industry, we were all taught that it kind of infiltrated, that message got infiltrated into healthcare, because dietitians were saying you need to eat breakfast. It stimulates your metabolism. It gets your blood sugars stable if you start the day with breakfast and eat every 3 hours. And although that works in a way if you're eating healthy, I had a lot of patients with a lot of plateaus along the way if they were trying to lose weight. And we discovered that it actually does the opposite of stimulating your metabolism. It actually slows your metabolism. Because if you think about it, you're starting off the day, especially if you're eating something unhealthy.
Well,
like
and especially
cereal.
now, right? Because, before we used to eat things that were grown in the earth, and now we're eating like boxed cereal.
Right. And the
Right?
cereal aisle keeps getting bigger and bigger. And there's a huge marketing component to the point where cereal boxes have cute little eyes and pictures of little cartoon characters of the best shows on TV. And they're sitting there on a box looking down at kids who are looking back up at them and saying, Mommy, buy that cereal. And so we're taught through our kids too, we need to buy them that cereal. They're convincing us. And then we want to model good behavior and eat breakfast like we're being told by nutritionists and dietitians and naturopathic doctors, in my case, in many cases, until we understood and recognized that, first of all, you don't have to eat right when you get up. And secondly, the food choices need to be different. So,
and I love it that you say this, because just like everything, our insides need to wake up, right? You wake up and you're like, okay, I need to eat right away.
So I used to. It's a good question. I used to wake up and eat every few hours, and then in order to sleep, I would eat. And I did, yeah.
Like before bed.
Oh yeah, yes, I would. It kind of help me sleep. But now I don't need to eat before bed to sleep. But it's interesting, this whole concept that you're supposed to eat every few hours. And my weight at certain points in life wasn't the most ideal, but understanding beyond weight just what that does to your metabolism. And it's basically setting you up for prediabetes and diabetes, which is what I'm trying to avoid, especially knowing I have polycystic ovary syndrome, which is one of my driving forces to stay healthier. So
yeah, so basically this is such an important topic, because nobody talks about when.
No.
They'll say what, but
They'll
not
say
when.
how.
And how, yeah. But like
why.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
and so does that mean though that we never eat breakfast?
No, but we all eat breakfast because we break the fast.
Exactly.
Yeah, we break the fast,
yes.
right? And we all do it. And culturally, there's even religious ceremonies around breaking the fast at very specific times. Right?
Yes. So we all break the fast, and now it's just figuring out when. And really, that's a matter of lifestyle and convenience. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's talk about what fasting even is, and what does it mean. So when you hear the word fasting, what do you think of automatically?
Just, abstaining from food altogether.
Right. So, and that is correct. If we're trying to apply intermittent fasting, which was what I advocate. Dr. Jason Fung, this wonderful nephrologist based out of Toronto, is a big advocate, and he wrote The Diet Doctor, and he talks all about the background and the reasons and the physiology and the whys. And when you fast, essentially, and drink water, so it's not fasting without water, it's fasting with water, and there's strategies that you can apply to even help you so that, through your beginning attempts to do fasting, but the why is that it actually gives your pancreas a break from constantly shunting out insulin. If you're waking up in the day and eating right away, already your insulin is being fired out, especially if it's a carb-rich breakfast.
Right, and no break.
No, so no break. Your insulin's like, your pancreas is like, okay, by the end of the day, I'm tired. And so guess what? The receptors are, from that little message from the insulin constantly pumping out, they get tired, and then you end up storing fat and your metabolic parameters get thrown off. Your metabolism slows, so it does the opposite. So we want to be nice to our pancreases.
Yes, we wake it up slowly.
Yes, because when we support our pancreas, we then ultimately support our thyroid. We also support our adrenal-brain connection, and then we feel healthier. We can, not that I advocate less sleep, but we can sleep with more vitality when we wake up in the morning. We feel more rested. We have more energy and we're healthier. So,
well, when you say about sleep, it's also quality sleep. It's not just quantity of sleep.
So it's better quality sleep.
Absolutely.
Yes. So fasting, what is that? How can you apply it? How can you start to fast if it's something that makes sense for you in your lifestyle? So the way it's advocated with this intermittent fasting is you prolong your window of fasting to anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. People who have type 2 diabetes can go longer on some days of the week and drink water only. But there's a lot of people will do the 16-8, which means you fast for 16 hours and then you eat over an 8-hour period.
Right. And that can move, right? Because it's not like, oh gosh, everybody has to run the same schedule, especially when you're working.
Yes. So there was this study that they did amongst a group of humans. And it's important to note because many studies are done on
Yes, you're right. 100%. Mice,
right?
For one.
Yeah. So, and they divided the humans into two groups. Both, the bigger group was before they divided them. They wanted to make sure that they had pre-diabetes, which, as we know, 1 in 3 Canadians have.
Right.
And they divided them to two groups. They both ate the standard American diet, which, as we know, is not exactly the most healthy diet. But both groups had pre-diabetes, high lipids, so high cholesterol, high blood pressure, borderline, basically like the picture of metabolic syndrome, we call it. So high cholesterol, high blood pressure, waist circumferences that were too big for optimal health, because that's, did you know that there's something called the VAT? It becomes its own organ. It's called the VAT. It's like the visceral adipose tissue.
Yes, I do know about that.
So
absolutely.
It increases cytokines and inflammatory markers.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So they had bigger bellies and disproportionate, so unhealthy metabolic parameters. When they were divided into the two groups, one group followed a fasting routine, ate the same number of calories as the other group. The other group did not fast. And what they found at the end of the 2 months, I believe it was, the period of time studied, they found that the group who did the fasting, ate the same number of calories as the other group, ended up reversing their type 2 or their pre-diabetes. Their cholesterol got better, their blood pressure got better, they lost, their waist circumference shrunk, but they didn't lose weight. So that was kind of intriguing to me because clearly calories do matter, but they were starting to shift. So their fat percentage was going down, their lean body mass was going up, and their metabolic parameters were improving.
And which meant that they actually lost fat because, of course, muscles truly does weigh more than fat.
So
did I just say that wrong? I don't know
no,
what I just said.
It's okay, but that's actually a good misconception to debunk because a pound of feathers is a pound of bricks. And but as you're going up in muscle, you're going down in fat.
Yes.
And
that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I said it wrong.
But no, you didn't say it wrong. It was cute because honestly, it's a good point to make because people think that fat weighs more than, which one did you say? One of the misconception is that the muscle weighs more than fat. But, good question.
We're talking like if you're looking at a concentration like of actual lean muscle mass, it's going to weigh more than the actual fat tissue.
Right, I guess in the same
quantity, in the same
yes,
space.
Actually,
that's what I mean.
So sorry then. Yes, correct. Sorry. No, I was thinking sorry, patients, because I was saying no, it doesn't. But in the same space, it does.
Yes.
You're right.
Okay. Anyway, diverting. Yeah.
So we're totally diverting. But the bottom line is that between these two groups, they ate the same calories, one fasted, and it was actually interesting. They ate as early as 7 a.m., but then they were done by 3. So they had a earlier window. So really it depends on your lifestyle as to when you decide to eat.
Absolutely.
And choose that 8-hour window if that's the window that you decide in order to start your fasting. Or you can move up. For me, I because I was eating all the time, healthy-ish, I'm not perfect. I ended up having the days I choose to fast. I as I did the transition, I ended up adding an hour of fasting. So I was going from like 12 hours to 13. And then I worked my way up to 16 hours of fasting and then eating over an 8-hour window. And you don't have to do it all the time. Patients who have type 2 diabetes, I would recommend probably considering it. But if you're just trying to get healthier for the reason apparently that it's actually anti-aging. So although
that'd be a motivating factor. Like, hello, all the women's like, boo,
right?
Perked up.
Right.
Yeah, it's like anti-aging. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right? So apparently when you're in your fasting window, your DNA is being repaired. How cool is that?
Yes, of course.
Right? So not just for prediabetes and polycystic ovary syndrome for me, but to look younger, feel healthier, and repair faster.
Yeah. Well,
right?
It is about repairing faster and rejuvenation and having your cells be as healthy as possible. So absolutely. So sugar can, as you said in our last podcast, sugar becomes molasses in our body. How well is that going to work, right?
Yeah, yes. So if we don't give breaks, we get molasses. If we give breaks, we have fluid like rivers going through our arteries.
So then, let's talk about when we're talking about intermittent fasting and everyone's lifestyle and how I mentioned that, transformation doesn't mean that you do a full 180 or whatever it is. Some people will, but for the most part, if you want something to last with longevity, then it's about transitioning little bits at a time. And you said you did that, right? You started off making the fasting time a little longer.
Kudos to my patients who can just jump right in. And a lot of patients, maybe culturally, they already do kind of cut themselves off after dinner from eating. And I think it's not an uncommon thing to, to have that motivation. We used to say, don't dine after 9.
Oh, yeah? Is that a thing?
Yes.
So so for me, in terms of not eating late, just on a personal level, I found that when I eat later, it impacted my sleep. More difficulty fall asleep, more difficulty staying asleep, or like nightmares. If I have sugar before bed, I get nightmares. So so for me, and I'll tell you, I'm no saint. Like I do have a little bit of I would love dark chocolate any time of day. Like yes,
yeah, me too. I could go for that.
Yeah, but so I don't. And so my trick, I guess maybe we're getting ahead of the schedule here, but maybe I'll say my trick later.
Yeah, we could say your trick later. That works too for sure.
Okay,
keep it. You gotta.
But the point is, there are tricks, and in helping you have that healthier fasting time, right? So how do we stop ourselves from eating too late?
Right. So one actually helpful tip, we could talk about tips, but in terms of fasting, I mean, why not, right? So in terms of fasting, how do you just go from eating all the time to not eating? You can, and in fact, it's actually important to know a little bit of the physiology behind why patients and people will sometimes get kind of a feeling of low blood sugars. Our body is expecting to get food at certain times as it's trained. You wake up, you eat breakfast. Our insulin's already pumping out even before the meal. So we get a little low from just that habit. And then at first, our bodies, we're not going to die. We're actually safe. We might not feel great. During this first transition, as our body actually makes break fast for us. Right. So glycogen stored in our liver breaks down to glucose, and then we have some sugar in our blood. So
in our reserves.
Exactly.
And for many of us, we have a lot of reserves.
And that's right. I was going to say next, if we've used up that breakfast from our liver, the next step is to use our fat reserves. Yes. So we do, and from there, during those little transitions, as our body's making blood sugar, we might feel a little bit distracted with low blood sugars, kind of a low, because our pancreas is putting out insulin into our blood, and we feel a little bit of a low as the sugar declines. As we transition from our breakfast stores in our liver to our fat stores. So actually exercise is a really good distraction. You would think rest, but movement actually gets your adrenal glands to tell your liver, make more glucose, make more breakfast. So it's actually helpful to distract with a walk.
Yes.
Which you do most
every
mornings.
Single day, yeah. But now we're giving our tips away. I thought it was at the end, but that's okay.
Yeah, so distraction is helpful during fasting. And then when you're fasting, you can also drink electrolyte drinks without sugar. You can do bubbly water. You can...
Right, instead of just, choosing water.
Yeah, over, different type, exactly.
Over energy drinks or anything that contains sugar, even if it's fruit sugars, right?
Yes.
Concentrated fruit sugars.
Yep.
Sounds kind of good, but really it's just sugar. So,
yes.
water.
So water, bubbly water, tea that you've brewed up and turned into popsicles with stevia if you really crave that sugar taste. Or you can even do Zevia pop, which is like, bubbly water. If you're in the evening, you're not going to wake up and have Zevia pop. Well, maybe some people will. But in the evening, if you're craving, you can, chew on a popsicle, or you can have some Zevia pop or any, unsweetened Perrier drinks, beverages.
So, and then I want to add in, because I had a patient that thought stevia was the end all be all. So she started putting into everything, like, all the time.
Oh, right.
And then it actually caused issues as well.
Distress. Yeah, so a lot of stevias are sweetened with erythritol, and that can cause GI distress. That's good to know. Yes.
Right. So when we say this, we do with the word of caution, right?
Yes.
Like anything in excess is not so good.
Yes.
Even when it's healthy.
And it's for the transition. You won't be doing this long term. It's more just for transition. But yes, anything in excess, definitely not good. You don't want to be fasting days on end either.
No. Okay. So then for you, this is a lifestyle choice. So some people do intermittent fasting as like a dieting strategy. Yeah. So we're looking at fasting
for health,
and for longevity and anti-aging in a way that lasts forever, right?
Yes.
So then let's now go into the tip, because I could see that we're getting to the end of time, and we love to keep talking.
We do.
There's no shortage of talking. But,
no.
So tell me what you do as a strategy for yourself for fasting. I mean, you're an expert now, but like to start out when you're like facing, it's like, oh my gosh, I would really die to have something right now. What do you do?
So I actually brought in, as my transition, I brought in coffee, and I didn't used to be a coffee drinker.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and it does bore a little energy from the adrenals, which does cause that extra little kick on the glycogen from release from the liver. So coffee helps, and lots of water. So I'm giving you more than one tip. And riding, like I'll go exercise for sure, distract.
Okay.
Super helpful.
So for me, it's interesting that you chose the word distraction, because I just come from a place of like, what is going to make me feel healthy?
Yes.
And so I know that I feel more energized just naturally if I wake up and do something more invigorating. So, in my earlier years, I was doing a lot of running. I've done a marathon. But now I'm like over 50 and like, you know what? I'm sorry, but I can't run like I used to. So now I do brisk walking. And instead of mourning the loss, and there is a little loss with it, but now I'm just like grateful. It's like, gosh, like I get to connect with nature, and I get to walk and listen to podcasts.
Yes. And I would say distract. It's good that you point that out. I love how you truly listen. So distract, I was thinking more for the transition. Yes. But then you're right. It's like filling up your time with things that give you that like joie de vivre. And I would say that I really enjoy my coffee, my Java now, and I really enjoy a ride in the forest, and being in touch with your five senses is key.
We'll talk about that another time.
We will.
Yeah. And so my other one little tip after I eat, I don't know if I mentioned it, I actually brush my teeth.
Oh, that's smart.
Right? Because then afterwards, it's like, I don't want to brush my teeth again.
That's right.
And I don't I'm the person that will like die hard no matter how I feel. Even when I was younger, if I was like hungover or like sickly, I'll brush my teeth, right? It's like,
brushing and morning, but you're talking about at night before you go to bed.
Well, no, I would do it earlier. I would do it after dinner, so then I don't worry about it later. Even if I like watch a movie, because oftentimes people will associate eating, like when you go to a movie theater. I grew up going to the movie theater, and you would buy snacks.
Yes.
To watch a movie. Right. So that's a very, that associative habit, right? Yes. So now it's like, no, I don't have to eat when I watch. Right. I think a lot of people do. Yes. Right? They watch TV and they'll eat bonbons.
Popcorn, chips. Yes. Yeah. I am guilty of it now. I'm not guilty, but I enjoy it sometimes now. But I choose not to, and I've learned other strategies around that because of the way I feel and the knowledge I have behind why to fast. And it's also just figuring out what works for you lifestyle-wise in terms of time. Because for me, when I'm fasting, I'll eat between 12 and 8, so it's a little bit later than what the study showed. And that's okay. It can be 11 to 7 that you eat, or 10 to 6. It depends on what your work schedule is and your family life and such.
And again, you do it gradually, so it may not be 8 hours initially, right?
That's right.
And so, like you, I'm not going to feel guilty about it. But yes, of course, there are times I'll sit and snuggle with my daughter and we'll like get some chips.
That's right.
No biggie.
And that's okay.
Okay, that's okay. 80-20 rule, guys.
Yes.
And we'll talk about more of this kind of stuff later. So tell me, what filled your cup today?
Homework first.
Homework.
Right. We would like for you to think about how you could incorporate some fasting into your life, even if it's not making that big transition. Where would you have that in your life, fasting? And then my cup. How did I fill my cup today? I filled my cup this morning by calling a friend and singing.
You've got a singing theme. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to have to sing sometime for sure.
Yes, we do. Harmonizing,
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how to harmonize. I'll just sing.
Right. Well, I will harmonize on your singing.
Woohoo!
And we will share it with you.
Okay.
If you want to get
So that will
creative.
fill my future cup.
Yes.
And so today I was just really present to, like, what filled my cup was like, oh my gosh, my husband set up our camera and like everything ready to go as I walked in the door for my walk, which I loved doing, and that's partly what fills my cup. And rather than just like coming from a place of, because there's lots of things that he doesn't do, but focusing on what he did.
He does do. That is so important as women. Right? We need to constantly, definitely admire and adore our spouses, build them up, and recognize what they do. I agree.
Because it's otherwise, truly. Like I could go down a list of.
Yes.
And we're not going to do that. Like, how awesome was that?
Yes.
Okay.
So awesome.
All right.
I appreciate him too. Thank you, JL.
Okay.
Right.
Bye, guys. Bye. See you soon.
Thank you for joining us. Click subscribe, like, and share. Please comment and suggest topics you want us to cover.
Until next time, ask yourself, how are you going to embrace you first today?
For more podcasts, check out embraceyoufirst.com.
And follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.